Alright, cool. So we're going to start out with a Motherlode 21 on this most recent week, which is a Tyrannical Bursting Skittish, Enchanted Heavy Motherlode week. One of the better weeks for Motherlode just in general, just because it is this Enchanted Heavy Motherlode scenario. You guys can see on the left-hand side of my screen the talents, Azurite, and essences that I'm using. So basically the talents, nothing really special. We have Force of Nature trees, Wild Charge, Restoration Affinity, Typhoon, Incarnation. As for when you should play Incarnation versus Star-Lord, I think it really comes down to personal preference. Whenever you're looking to do high keys, if you're going to get like the 30-second duration out of Incarn. If you're doing lower level keys and you're not going to be pulling for 30 seconds consecutively, then Star-Lord's probably a little bit better. So that's one of those things that you can definitely think about. Twin Moons is pretty much always your go-to, and then Fury of Elune is kind of dungeon dependent. So for stuff like Temple of Sethralis, King's Rest, or Toldagor, you should probably be looking to play Shooting Stars, whereas for pretty much everything else, you should probably be looking to play Fury of Elune. So those are general rules of thumb for the talents setup. As for essences, I am very fond of Visions of Perfection Major. I think it gives the best balance between single target and AoE damage, while at the same time, just like the 2.5 minutes cooldown on your Celestial Alignment or Incarn feels really good to play. Oh, what's up, Katsuki? How's it going? So then for minors, obviously Conflict and Strife is pretty much always your go-to, and then I play either Purification Protocol or Essence of the Focusing Iris. Then we just kind of roll with that and just kind of let it ride. As for Azurite, obviously Triple Streaking Stars, 1 Arcanic Pulsar is pretty mandatory. Everything else is kind of subjective. Alright. So with all of that out of the way, we can kind of get into the mechanics of the dungeon. So we saw the first pull there. We made sure that we used our Bloodlust in order to be able to just nuke down that incredibly large pull as quickly as possible. We're actually getting a really nice Visions of Perfection proc here. And inside of Motherlode, maybe not on this week because it's bolstering in the current environment on live, but in most other weeks, chain pulling Motherlode is definitely what you're looking to do because these Peacekeepers have just so much more health than everything else. So that's always really nice. So you see us here, we're DPSing down the Peacekeepers, making sure that the Thug is getting kicked. If we're really scared of the Mecha Jockey, we can instantly kill it as well. However, on Tyrannical, you're normally in a pretty decent spot to just let it get passively cleaved down while you're dealing with the rest of the mobs inside of the pack. All right. So we got the energy shields here. Obviously, your tank's not taking any damage whenever the energy shields are going out. If you're playing with something like a Protection Warrior, saving your trees for whenever the Peacekeepers do their Charged Claw ability and are going to be meleeing the tank is pretty important. This is normally only an issue on like fortified dungeons whenever, like, because Protection Warrior doesn't have a ton of magic mitigation, so they can actually be killed pretty easily by these mechanized Peacekeepers on fortified. So that's one of the ways that you should be looking to deal with that. Then as for cooldown, you see me popping my Incarn there. Basically, especially if you're using Visions of Perfection Major, you really want to just kind of pop Incarn on CD just to get it rolling, because if you are getting like the cooldown reduction from the minor essence, not utilizing it to its fullest potential and fullest ability is a really bad thing. So you see us here with this triple Thug pull. This pull, like on the surface, may be actually pretty dangerous, but if you actually can coordinate your kicks and making sure that none of these thugs are actually enraged, you're normally not in too dangerous of a spot, because like their charge is only dangerous, their clothesline is only dangerous if they do have that enrage on them from the Inhale Vapors cast. So kicking that or using Solar Beam or just soothing it off, you're normally going to be in a pretty decent spot there. Why don't I play Star-Lord and Mythic Plus? You see a lot of boomies picking it over Incarn, is a question that I just got. And the reason for that is because, personally, I don't see there's too much of a difference between the two talents, and I do high enough level keys to where it doesn't actually matter too much. My Incarn is always going to last 30 seconds on pull if I use it at the correct time, so I'm never going to be wasting duration. As for other people who are doing high keys, I think it just comes down to preference. For lower level keys, though, I would definitely recommend Starlord, especially if you're not going to get 30 seconds plus or minus like an Arcanic Pulse or Visions of Perfection proc. So I don't normally really have to worry about those kind of things because the pulls do last for so long. Groups I run with are chain pulling. It's just like a more of a coordination thing. So my groups kind of know what they're doing. But other people, you can actually play Starlord and play it pretty competently as well. So something that you actually saw from that refreshment window there is I Typhooned and Bull Rushed the Cola cast, and the reason for that being is because if you Typhoon or like use a stun or use anything on that Cola cast like a gouge or something like that, it doesn't recast it. So you would rather use your kick on the Spritzer and lock the refreshment vendor out of the Spritzer as opposed to locking it out of the Cola cast, because you don't need to use your kick on that. All right, and here you actually see us activating another mech. My Incarn comes up again. It feels like every other pull inside of Motherlode, you do have your Incarn available to you. So we're making sure that we Solar Beam the refreshment vendor. Getting all of the mobs inside of that Solar Beam is also really nice because it'll stop the assassins from casting the blade too. You also see me using my trees. I probably treesed a little bit early. I could have trees whenever the Peacekeeper gets its charged claw cast rolling, and then just allowing our tank to mitigate a little bit more magic damage, because the Peacekeepers are actually probably some of the more dangerous mobs for the tank. Obviously, the assassin with the bleed, or the nature damage bleed, the toxic blade or whatever, is probably the most dangerous thing, and then the Peacekeeper with the charged claw is probably second, because most tanks are not very good at mitigating magic damage. Treants are probably also going to die to the magic damage, but it gives your tank a little bit of time to build some more threat and then walk away from the pack. So that's how you have to think about how you're using trees inside of a dungeon like this. Alright, so now we're going to be walking around. We're trying to pilot as many Peacekeeper robots as we possibly can. You can see right here, this mech is going to walk inside of this bot. It's at 99.5% health, meaning that we actually got a tag on it. That's a really important thing. If you don't tag the mech jockey before it jumps inside of the Peacekeeper, then you may not actually get count for it. There are some classes, such as Unholy Death Knight, that will give you count almost regardless of that. But yeah, that's basically one of those things. You just need to make sure that you tag it before somebody hops in that robot and starts piloting it. Alrighty, so again, the Cola's casting. You should be looking to knock it, not really kick it. Just saving kicks is a pretty important thing, especially inside of some of these larger pulls in Motherlode. That would actually be super helpful as a balanced druid. Typhoon or Bull Rush or whatever is pretty nice for that. So we have two Peacekeepers here with both charging their energized shield, and we do have 3 minutes left on Bloodlust. So I'm going to be looking to use my cooldowns on this pack because I know that they're going to be coming up whenever we actually do get that Bloodlust back available to us. And then from here we have triple mechanized Peacekeeper, which is slightly dangerous. We're going to be looking to trees them as soon as they're done channeling their energized shield. Again, allowing our tank to mitigate as much damage as possible. And then we're just going to be DPSing down this refreshment vendor because it's the most dangerous mob inside of the pack. Okay, and now we have these mechanized Peacekeepers starting to get chomped down. We're going to probably bolster kill them just because of time efficiency. Yeah, and then from there, we probably are going to end up looking to pull the boss. Even though we do only have like a minute-ish left on Bloodlust, there's no more trash that we really have to do inside of this front half of the instance, so we would have to backtrack for the boss, or we would just pull the boss now, use Bloodlust whenever it comes up, and just kind of roll with it. I'm going to have my cooldowns as soon as Bloodlust is available to us, so I'm in a pretty good spot to just pull the boss here. Doesn't really matter to me very much. So we're pulling coin-operated crowd pummeler off to the side. Our tank is going to, you actually see the world marker here. Our tank is going to be getting the bombs that move clockwise, while me and the other Resto Druid are responsible for getting all the other bombs that are in like this arc that I'm showing on screen right here. It just allows us to get easier 3 stacks. The tank just is responsible for moving the boss generally. So whenever he has to move the boss, he can just like chi torpedo out and then kick the bombs inside of coin pummeler whenever, like right before they do get that, so you can get like the full refresh on the debuff. So now we have some more foot bombs coming out. We use our Bloodlust. My Incarn's coming up in about 11 seconds. Again, our tank is going to chi torpedo out towards this bomb and kick it in at the very last second to get a full refresh on this debuff on coin pummeler, making him take increased damage. And then from there, I'm going to end up using my Incarn just as soon as it comes up here. I actually get really good refreshes on when I get my Visions of Perfection on this fight, allowing me to just do insane amounts of damage inside of coin pummeler, even though it is on this like tyrannical setting. And then some sets of bombs that you actually need to kick like almost instantly, because the tank is going to have to move the boss pretty quickly, but it just kind of depends on when you have to do that. See, like right here, you have to just move the boss like almost instantly, because if he actually ends up start casting his foot bomb, and like while he's next to the coins, then he's going to coin magnet and get a bunch of buffs, making his damage, the shock pulse, do stupid amounts of damage to you. And I get really good refreshes on Visions of Perfection again, like right as the buff is on the boss. So I'm gonna actually end up ending this fight at about 100k DPS, which is kind of insane. It's just like it occurs because of really good refreshes on Incarnation and Visions of Perfection. All right, so this pack actually has some interesting mobs. The most dangerous is probably the Earthshaper and the Miner Rats. How you actually should deal with this pack is you should use Solar Beam so that it silences the Earthshaper's Lance cast, and then after the Solar Beam expires, you should use Trees to be able to absorb some of the Rock Lances on the tank, because the tank is the only person who's at real danger of dying if he doesn't have to kite. Because he has to face tank all these mobs, otherwise they're going to be casting on the nearest player. So allowing him to stay in as long as possible is pretty important here. And then now I don't have cooldowns for this pack, so it's pretty... It could actually be pretty dangerous for a tank, but just making sure that he does have his cooldowns available, making sure that you're utilizing AoE stuns such as Chaos Nova to like sweep at the appropriate time is the important part of this aspect here. You actually see him getting lanced, and he almost ends up going down. That would actually been so bad. This pack, like, even though your respawn point is kind of close, it's really hard to kite this pack back and not, like, chain die to it, have, like, 20 deaths to it if your tank ends up going down. Do I have a more recent balance guide available? So I actually write and maintain the Wowhead Balance Druid class guide. So if you have any questions about that, you can check there. I don't have any video formatted guides that are completely up to date in the current standing though. So yes and no. Yes would be the answer. So we pulled those 2 Wonton Sappers from the side, just to give us a little bit more count so we can make our way towards the end of the instance. And then our tank's null barrier procs on some trash, so he has to die. Yes, so nullification barrier and stagger can actually pull you out of Shroud if it procs on targets or if it does damage to you. Yeah, Moonkin Monthly's kind of like that. I would say Moonkin Monthly's a little bit looser form than that. Moonkin Monthly's more like topical approach to stuff. In the past, I made more like guides, but I was really busy at the very beginning of this patch, like moving and stuff, so I didn't really have a ton of time to be able to do that. And now it's a little bit late inside of the patch cycle, so I don't really think it's the best use of my time. So you actually hold on, let me back that up because that's actually kind of important. So I actually have the Ashar's Eternal Palace staff from Queen Ashara herself, and you actually see it has 102 stacks here. I use double regrowth into Swiftman into Wild Growth, and then it procs it instantly, doing an insane amount of damage to all of these Earth Ragers here. I do this so that because I see that our melee and myself are targeted, and getting these Earth Ragers down is pretty important. I do also know that there's a high degree of likelihood that I'm going to die during our next couple of skips, so using that staff right here is actually pretty good utilization of it. And then you actually see us, we're just looking to kite the Earth Ragers around the room. We actually have an Assassination Rogue. So he actually has as many slows as you can get, so he keeps them permanently slowed, and then we just kind of kite them just around the boss, allowing our melee to maintain uptime on the boss and the Earth Ragers at the exact same time. This boss isn't too interesting. Dude, Azarok on a Tyrannical is so obnoxious because he continues to spawn these the Earth Rager ads, but they have a ton of HP, so you have to like burn through them, and then you have to like be able to do DPS to him. And they recently changed Azarok to where it doesn't, where he spawns 2 ads at a time instead of 1. He used to spawn only 1, but yeah, with spawning 2, it's really annoying. So you actually see I used my Incarn there pretty late. And the reason for that being is I know we're going to spend about 1.5 to 2 minutes probably like death running or just running through here. So there's no reason for me to hold on to it any longer. Because it has a 1:50 cooldown, and we're about to just like completely death run all the way through. And I may or may not feed to some bullshit. All right, so there's a Void Emissary here. So our tank is actually pulling this mastermind also has True Sight. So both of these mobs have True Sight. So our tank is going to be looking to pull this mastermind away from us and then pull across the room. We're going to maintain stealth and then try to make it all the way into the room. I actually don't have dash up, which is a pretty big mistake. So I may not even be able to make it all the way through. And by me, I mean probably not going to be able to make it all the way through. Look at the line that they're taking. Look at the line they're taking. While all of these True Sight mobs have been picked up by our tank's going to be looking to die right here. And then the 2 guys in stealth, the rogue and the other druid, are over here. I'm just going to die because I'm in a really bad spot. Alright, so now we're getting the mass res off and we're kind of chilling. Actually, having engineering battle res on your rogue is fairly important as well, because rogues do have Vanish available to them, especially if your group is not Alliance. Because rogues have Vanish available to them, or if you're Alliance and you have Shadow Meld available to you, being able to drop combat after like a skip or something like that, and then res another player out of combat, preferably your healer, is really nice. So we're actually going to pull this Technician inside of Rixa Fluxflame, and something that most people probably don't know is that the Technician, if it doesn't have like a War Machine next to it, it really doesn't do anything. So we use this to our advantage, and we pull it just right on top of Rixa. We use our Bloodlust because we're really far ahead on the timer. Basically, you have to have Azarok probably dead by like 24 minutes on Tyrannical. That's cool. You probably have to have Azarok dead by like 24 minutes on Tyrannical, but we're pretty far ahead. So what actually happened there is I got hit by the catalyst, the Azarite catalyst, and it's bugged right now to where it does 3 instances of damage. It does 3 instances of damage like pretty much instantly, so it instantly killed me. I didn't know that prior to this. Let's see, because I pull up my death log, I'm just like, what the hell? Because most of the time you only get hit by one of these like every second, right? That you're standing inside of this Azarite catalyst dot. But I took 3 of them within 0.3 seconds, so it instantly killed me. So that was not great. But I lost my cooldowns. I lost Bloodlust too. That's actually so bad for my damage. Yeah, individually that's pretty not great, but this fight, if you guys did Mythic Argus, you should be looking to do it similar to that. Just like moving the over moving the boss, and then everybody like stands in a pile trying to bait the previous Azarite Catalyst on top of the other one, and then you use the propellant to kind of clear out the rest of the room that's got the funk in it. So I'm going to be positioning here. We could also clear out probably this area of the room, neither of which is a really bad spot to clear out. So that's one really good bait. I probably should not be here. I probably should be over here. Yeah, okay, so the puddles kind of move in a weird way too. They don't really move like how the propellant blast is casting, how you'd actually think the physics of the propellant blast should move them. So you have to make sure that they're not coming towards you and that you sidestep out of the way, because yeah, they can actually put you in a really bad spot. Also, another thing that's important to note is like getting chopped off by your group by the what are those things, like the pipes, is also really bad too, especially whenever this boss is kind of bugged right now. Like if the boss wasn't bugged, you could actually just cat form wild charge, bear form wild charge through the Azarite Catalyst and be okay. But with it bugged, you really can't walk through them without you just like straight up dying. Like, and you're just like, okay, well, that's cool. So I'm looking to bait again. This time near this other puddle, just to get a good bait, and then we're going to be moving towards the middle of the room. We actually get walled off by this pipe. Okay, so this is exactly what I was talking about. Getting separated out by the pipe is actually so bad. Me and the Resto Druid are caught off right here, and we don't really know where to move, because touching this stuff will instantly kill you. This sludge does like 150k DPS a second. I move off to the side over here because I'm just like, I don't know where to go. And then he starts casting his Azarite. He starts casting his Azarite on me again, so I have to move. But I just like straight up die. So I died twice on this fight. Not great. I get battle res, but it's not worth taking. Alright, we kill Rixa Flux Flame. We're good to go. This fight kind of sucks. Yeah, this boss is really tough at the moment because it's bugged. Like, if it wasn't bugged, it's actually not that bad. I mean, it wrecks your tank because of the shot timings, but overall, it's okay. What do I think is better for Mythic Plus, Shooting Stars or Fury of Elune? I think it depends on the dungeon. So, for a dungeon like Motherlode, Fury of Elune is definitely better. For a dungeon like Seth Rallis, King's Rest, Toldagor, Shooting Stars is definitely better. So you see he's pulling double War Machine. Double War Machine here. Wait, our Resto Druid just got double shot. Oh, man. Anyways, yeah, our Resto just got double charged shot and then instantly died. These War Machines actually spawn these mines that give 1 count per mine as well. So these mobs on the surface are only 12 count, but each of them will spawn 2 to 3 mines. So you can just like farm these for count if you'd really like to. In addition to that, these Ordnance Specialists, hold on, let me show you. Back it up. Okay, so this Ordnance Specialist right here, you can see it. He'll start casting his ability, and you don't actually have to kick this, this artillery barrage. You don't actually have to kick this. You can actually knock it, and he doesn't recast it as well. So you're gonna see me knock it, or it gets Chaos Nova, and he doesn't actually recast. That actually puts a pretty hefty dot on top of players. So doing that is pretty nice, especially if you're going to be looking to do some of these mobs or some of these packs. Again, using my Incarn just because I know we're going to be looking to do a Shroud skip pretty deep on. I'm also proccing these mines. Balanced Druid. Okay, so Balanced Druid, really fucking shit at killing explosives. However, Balanced Druid, really fucking good at killing mines. So, yeah. Kind of a weird dichotomy, right? I wish I was better at killing explosives than I am killing these crawler mines, but because it's basically because explosives spawn too often, and dumping a Star Surge into them is really bad. But Star Surge is like the perfect amount of damage for insta killing the crawler mine, and it comes out like every 10 to 15 seconds or whenever you just kind of spawn them. Have you ever played tank before? How did you learn all the trash mob abilities? So most of the time, I just okay. So part of it was MDI. Part of it was just playing the game more and more. Initially, at the very beginning of the expansion, I didn't really know too well what trash mob abilities did what, but just the more and more you play, the more and more you understand what's going on. I think just in general, playing the game and just doing more Mythic Plus is always going to allow for you to get a better understanding of what abilities are actually dangerous. Also, playing with smarter players helps a pretty significant amount too, because they're able to teach you many things. Even inside of like pugs and stuff, sometimes I'll see stuff that I didn't understand a mechanic worked one way or the other, but after having seen it done a couple times with better players, I really understand like what a way to do that is. Like Trell and Jamal did a ton of beta keys. Trell, Jamal, and Morning all did a ton of beta keys, so they even had like a really good understanding of what all the mechanics were even coming into the expansion. Okay, so pause. Safe spot. This is a safe spot. This is a safe spot. There's also a safe spot over here. This is important because we are electing to tank the boss near the stairs. Balanced Druid has infinite armor, so you actually can just face tank the Gatling gun every single time, and you're in good position. Just make sure that you bark skin, or if you're actually in danger, you can just go bear form, swift. I would say swift bend yourself before the Gatling gun hits you, because if you swift bend yourself after the Gatling gun, like while it's hitting you, then you're probably going to die just because you lose all of that armor. This crit non-crit Wikora is about Star Surge. It's just a meme. We call this sadness corner over here on the left side. So on Tyrannical, the scariest part of Mogul Razdunk is probably the Sky Scorchers inside of the Intermission. You're gonna see us probably mark one with a skull marker and look to nuke it down. It does like a Buster Shot ability, I think is what it's called, and it makes your tank take reduced healing, and it just does a pretty sizable dot on him as well. Okay, so we can skip to the Intermission here. Okay, so Razdunk, if you guys don't know, he can like queue up like Honing Missile and Gatling Gun, and if he queues it up, then he'll delay going into the Intermission for a few seconds. It would have probably been nice to actually have Bloodlust on these Sky Scorchers. So yeah, Buster Shot, that's the name of it. Oh, it's this Azerite Heartseeker. I'm sorry, it's not Buster Shot. Okay, so Buster Shot is just their normal base ability. This Azerite Heartseeker, let me back it up. The Sky Scorchers will actually draw a line on top of the tank, and any player that's inside of that, or I think it's actually on the nearest player, and then any player inside of that line will get hit by it and absorb it for the player that's actually targeted. So you'd actually like both of them to go on the tank, because it does just a ridiculous amount of damage. You can actually see our healer gets hit by his, and he actually almost instantly dies. He actually procs his Undulating Tides and drops down to like 20% health or something. You could actually probably soak it in bear for your group too, or you can cloak it. But most of the time, you just want your tank to be looking to take it. So you actually see right there, we have one of the Sky Scorchers marked with a skull. It should probably be dying first. I don't know why I'm hitting the wrong target. Just, I don't know. Bad targeting, I guess. And something else that you can also do is you can kill the furthest most, or you can use the drop down on the closest pillar if you're actually using this like safe zone technique where you're using this over here, the stairs area. You can use the pillar that's the closest to that last to allow for your tank to be able to position the boss a little bit easier. Alrighty. How do you feel about Beast Mastery Hunter and Marksmanship Hunter for Mythic Plus? So I know Nico Yuzawa plays Marksmanship almost exclusively, and she does actually pretty insane amounts of damage. I do know that it's worse for lower level keys though, because there's some like, I think there's some target cap on their AoE or something ridiculous that I know of, but I would say that you probably should just play what you have more fun, especially if you're comparing Beast Mastery and Survival. I think they're both probably pretty comparable. You can play either one at a high level right now and be okay. Alright, so now the boss is pretty much just dead, and then we're done with the instance. We of course have 100% count. Yeah, okay, so the tank and the melees are also... Let me try back this up, get a better POV. Okay, so tank and melee are safe from the Boombas on the stairs area, but they tank Razdunk right on top of the stairs area, so they can easily move around the Gatling gun and then get back to the stairs to dodge the Boombas. Because if you're using any of the other safe zones, you can get caught out like in the middle of the room having to dodge the Gatling gun while the Boombas are going off. But with this, you're far less likely to do that, and you can get back to that safe zone pretty quickly. Yeah, but yeah, their safe spot, their zone where they're standing is a safe spot as well. Alrighty, so now Moogle Razdunk is going down. You should move the boss out in towards the middle of the room. Okay, hold on. We do a bad job here. The boss should be in the middle of the room, because if Moogle Razdunk comes out of his little robot once he dies, and like falls out of the instance or out of the zone, we will reset him instantly, and that would be just terrible. So make sure that you move him towards the middle right before he explodes. Yeah, you can go there as a tank without resetting the boss. Basically, the boss can't walk out of the boss can't walk out of here. Hold on, back up. The boss can't walk out of like this zone, like this line, but the tank can be tanking him like while standing right here, if that makes any sense.